Hello, guys. What's going on for TMG Entertainment? My name's Asher. This is Sports Brawl. We are getting into the tournament. This is the fourth match we got coming up. We got two great competitors. We got Jim and Sean taking the reins. Two competitors ready to put themselves into the ring, ready to do a rope-a-dope, ready to punch each other, do a little tete-a-tete. Okay, I'm done with idioms. Now it's time to get on to the judges. We got Jacob. How you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing good. I had an operation earlier, the end of last week, so I'm in a lot of pain right now, and just having something awesome to take my mind off of it. So, Jim, Sean, you have a lot to step up to. Make me not think about my pain. You can do it.
All right. And we got Thomas as well. How you doing, Thomas?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. I'm excited to see what Sean and Jim can do. Watching two guys go at it over various sports topics is what I like to do. Is what I like to watch. So hopefully these two can step it up a little bit and to create some great arguments, and hopefully may the best man win.
And without further ado, we'll introduce our competitors. We got Jim Green coming into the game. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing good. Sports is fun. I have never done a battleground Subrath Overlord debate, so this is my actual debut in any kind of Subrath controlled-ish league. So this will be fun. I haven't seen Sean playing anything before, so yeah, it's a first time for me in a lot of ways.
Praise our supreme leader, Subrath. Okay. And we got Sean. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Wasserkrug? Is that correct?
You actually said it perfectly.
Yes. Okay.
First one. I'm doing good. I love sports. I played baseball pretty much all my life, among football and basketball as well. So I love talking about it. I love watching it. And now we're doing it in a gaming format where I can argue, and I love arguing about it. So it should be a lot of fun.
Okay, that's perfect. I'll explain the rules to the folks at home and to you guys once more. We're going to have 4 rounds of scheduled questions that we prompted you guys beforehand. The player to get 3 points first, 3 rounds won, wins the game. So it might not even go to the 4th question. It might not go to the speed round. We have 1 speed round question as well. In the normal debate rounds, the normal prompt rounds, you guys will get 1-minute openings, followed by 5-minute debate between you two, followed by a 1-minute closing. If you want to, at the start of the round, you can say you'd like 1 extra minute of debate time to argue with each other, but you have to say that at the start of the round. And you get 1 of those through the match. You cannot use that during the speed round, obviously. I'll explain the speed round rules if we get to it, but without further ado, let us discuss the first prompt. Okay, without further ado, are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm. Let's do this.
Okay, the first question comes to us in the sport category of football, the NFL specifically. We've had some great Super Bowls in the past, very recently as well. And this question is blatantly, what is the best Super Bowl? Jim, whenever you start talking, you can go.
In this best Super Bowl question, I picked the complete and utter obvious answer because, it's the easiest one, and Sean didn't want it. So I took it, and that is Super Bowl 42. 42? Yes, 42. I'm bad with Roman numerals. 42, and that is the undefeated Patriots losing to the wild card team, New York Giants, to ruin their perfect season, 18-1. We all know it. We all love it, and that's the one I'm going with.
Okay. Still have some time?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Cool. Short and sweet and to the point. Okay, Sean, time starts when you begin speaking.
Jim is right. I did not want that Super Bowl because I have a better Super Bowl in mind. When it comes to one of the best Super Bowls of all time, you want something that's going to make you kind of almost have that sports movie kind of feel. where it's exciting up to the very last play. And that's why I chose the one dubbed the 1 yard short, the longest yard, the tackle. And that is Super Bowl 34 between the Tennessee Titans and the St. Louis Rams. And I will concede the rest of my time.
Wow. You guys are explaining these really well, short, sweet, to the point. Wow, we got two really good Super Bowls against each other. We got Super Bowl 34, Titans v. Rams versus Super Bowl 42, Patriots versus Giants. Okay, guys, whenever you're ready, get 5 minutes to talk. Go for it.
Well, first off, I will say to you, Sean, you just in your opening blew your whole load on why this is the only reason why this is considered a good Super Bowl, and it's that one play at the end that it's just a fun. Oh, remember that time Jeff Fisher almost won a Super Bowl? Yeah, that's that 1 yard, and that's the only thing that's memorable about this Super Bowl. It was a 7-point favorite, beating the shit out of the Titans the entire game until like the fourth quarter. Then the Titans came back a little bit, and then it's like, oh, it's a tied game, and oh yeah, they're the Rams. They just.
You could also say the same thing about your game. Your game wasn't exciting until the fourth quarter.
It was defense.
The entire time. Your first quarter had the longest drive in Super Bowl history with 9 minutes and 59 seconds. Yep. Each team only had one possession. That is a boring ass quarter.
Okay, you're just going off of my team had like we had field goals in our first quarter, and we had both teams are getting the ball, but
my game also broke 20 Super Bowl records that were either tied or broken in that game. Yours had none. Yours literally is the epitome of what you just said against mine. You had one catch. You had a Super Bowl helmet catch, and that was it. Ooh, all you have is the stigma of an undefeated.
No, you have David Tyree catch, and then you have plaques in the back corner of the end zone getting open on that post, deep post in the end zone, wide open. And
my team had the greatest show on turf with the St. Louis Rams. We had a quarterback who was a bagger grocer, leading a team to some of the best offensive plays throughout the entire season in Kurt Warner. This whole story, this whole game, both sides is underdogs. You have the underdog quarterback leading a team through the ranks, becoming one of the most dangerous teams offenses. You have the Tennessee Titans, who literally went through
because the Music City Miracle was bullshit and shouldn't have been there, but whatever.
That's not the Super Bowl, is it? That's not the Super Bowl.
Keep going, though. Keep going.
Thank you. The game was straight up exciting all the way through, even though they weren't scoring as much. When the second half started, it was a shootout. The Titans were down 16-0 in the third, fought all the way back to tie the game, and then the Rams immediately put a 70-yard blast with Isaac Bruce in the fourth quarter.
You just said it. It was 16-0 all the way until the end of the third quarter, where you're saying mine only has an exciting. Your game was the touchdown favorite Rams just beating the shit out of the Titans.
And what was your score at the end of the third quarter?
It's going back and forth. It's going back.
It was not going back and forth.
It was 3-7. But the thing is in my game, you have an actual, like the Patriots. Okay, greatest show on turf. I'll give you that. They were a great offense. Dick Vermeil, all that good stuff. You got Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Marshall Faulk, all the good stuff. But with mine, you had the Patriots who had gotten Randy Moss for like a chapstick and a bag of towels from the Raiders. But they were dropping 50 on everyone all season, and the Giants had already lost to the Patriots. And then the Giants beat the 13-3 Cowboys on the road, and then they go into Lambeau, and that game was freezing, and then they beat the Packers in overtime to get
talking about playoffs, not talking about. So
you're talking about both teams are underdogs, la-di-da, hold the hands. Both teams are underdogs. It's cool, but the 7-point favorite Rams were just beating the hell out of the Titans the entire game.
At least
my game was the 12.5-point favorite Patriots, undefeated, not being able to score on a Giants defense.
That's great. Yours has a point spread that 90% of the country who aren't bettors don't understand. Your game, you literally could skip the second and the third quarter, and you wouldn't miss anything. Mine at least had scores throughout the entire game. Your sports records, like I said, mine broke 20 records in that Super Bowl in terms of yardage, rushing, everything like that. Yours, the only records you had besides that longest drive snog was 17 points scored by the Giants.
1 minute.
Thank you. is the least number of points needed to win a Super Bowl. You want to talk about exciting? That's boring. People want to see scoring, and they want to see a great game, not two teams punting the ball the entire game until the fourth quarter happens. Mine at least scored throughout. We had a great
yours was just the Titans punting the ball the entire game and putting up 0 points until like 15 seconds left in the third quarter. And I mean, and you can say, oh, the betting line, nobody gets that. Everyone got that the Giants had no chance to win that game going into it. And that you had shit. Go ahead, Sean. You can finish this.
The stretch in the fourth quarter was one of the most exciting stretches in Super Bowl history. It is literally labeled, NFL ranked it, the tackle, the thing you want to dog me out, as the fourth greatest clutch moment in Super Bowl history, and Fox Sports ranked it number 1. My Super Bowl has moments. Yours is a catch and just beating an undefeated record. It's a boring game regardless.
Time.
Wow. A lot of punches back and forth there. Okay, we got a 1 minute closing for each of you since Jim opened it up. I'm going to have Sean start the closing. Your 1 minute timer starts whenever you start speaking.
Bottom line is the answer is greatest Super Bowl of all time. The only thing that Jim has in this is that the Patriots lost their undefeated season, and there's a catch. Mine literally has 3 nicknames by its name. Mine has a movie story type of feel with 2 underdog teams rising up, having a shootout in the final point of the game, a phenomenal, fantastic drive where they just fell 1 yard short. Everyone knows about the yard. Everyone knows the Patriots because they're in it every year. These are 2 teams that are rarely in the Super Bowl. They had to prove themselves to be worth wanting to watch outside of just being a Super Bowl. This was not a Super Bowl where it's like, oh, I'll just have fun watching the commercials. This was a game. It was a classic, and everyone talks about the Super Bowl. Whereas with the Patriots, I had more enjoyment watching the commercials because, frankly, up until the fourth quarter, I could have slept through the entire game. And I will concede the rest of my 10 seconds.
Wow. Okay. Good argument. Good closing by Sean. Jim, you got a minute whenever you start speaking.
Sean wants to keep driving home the fact of his underdogs. The only thing that's underdog about the Rams was that Kurt Warner just was a long shot to make the league. They were the number 1 seed. They were 13-3. The Titans, I believe, were also 13-3 that season. So cool underdogs, I guess. Just driving home the fact, and Sean's game only is known by the yard line thing. Nobody else cares about the rest of that game at all. With the 18-1 Patriots Super Bowl, you have a true underdog who had to go on the road 3 times in the playoffs to even make the Super Bowl. And then they had to go up a team against the Patriots that had already beat them in week 17. So we saw them lose to the Patriots and then win 3 road games to even get to play the Patriots. And then the Patriots are 12.5-point favorites, which I believe is a Super Bowl record. And then this team that's dropping 50 on everybody all season just cannot move the ball on the Michael Strahan pass rushing defense of the Giants. So that's why that's Super Bowl.
Time.
That's time. Wow. Okay, it's a lot to think through. There were great arguments by both. Anybody want to go first? Any of the judges?
I can go first, if that's okay.
Go for it, Thomas.
First of all, great arguments by both competitors. I agree with both of them. Both were phenomenal Super Bowls. I really enjoyed, I'm just going to go by what I remember last. I really enjoyed Jim's point at the very end about the Giants' journey through the playoffs, getting 3 road games. And I'm happy he brought up that Week 17 game because that was just a 3-point win for the Patriots. It sealed their perfect season. And I'm glad he brought that up because it wasn't the first time the Patriots and the Giants had met in that season. So it was also a rematch for the Giants. So that also made that Super Bowl a little bit more, a little bit better in the eyes of viewers. However, I did like Sean's arguments about Rams and Titans a little bit more. I think he really drove home the point about the records, the most points scored, the comeback the Titans made, and the fact that game was, was dubbed what it was. The 1 yard short, the drive that couldn't get into the end zone. He really hammered those points home. I think Jim kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit by conceding points a little bit too often. But Sean, he kept his head up. He kept pushing the point. And I think his arguments were a little bit stronger in the end. So personally, I would give the point to Sean.
Okay. Jacob, you got a decision on this one?
Yeah, I do. I mean, first off, I love talking about the Patriots losing. So definitely bringing up Super Bowl 42 is a great argument. And this was a pretty good argument between the two of you, Jim and Sean. Jim, I have to say, you talked a lot about why the story of the Super Bowl was good, about the journey. But Sean was saying more of why the actual Super Bowl itself was better. So that's why I'm going to have to give my point to Sean also.
Okay, so that's the first point to Sean. We got a pretty good round 2 on our hands, though. We got, in the category of basketball and the NBA, who is the most overrated player? And since we started with Jim the first time, we're going to go to Sean for the next one.
In talks of most overrated, you have to be excelled as being one of the top players of the league, someone who's constantly looked at as being the guy who's going to be one of the best players in the NBA, and then just not exceeding to that potential. And for me, the one person that stands out most of all of any of those is the one person out of the not the one person, but the group out of the phenomenal 2003 draft class that has not won a championship, and that goes to Carmelo Anthony. The dude has had plenty of years to prove himself to be a leader and just has not done it. So that is why I have had Carmelo Anthony as my most overrated player in NBA.
Okay, that's a good choice. And now we got Jim. So Jim, you got a minute to open with who you think is the most overrated player in NBA history.
We're going with for most overrated player, NBA player. We're going with Mr. Triple Double himself, Mr. Russell Westbrook. Yeah, there's not much to say on Russell Westbrook. I mean, Kevin Durant left. Paul George walked into Sam Presti's office and was like, trade me so I can play with Kawhi Leonard because Russell Westbrook is nope. I'm not winning anything here. I mean, he was the cause of James Harden kind of leaving too. So I'm going to go with Russell Westbrook because nobody really thinks that Melo's all that great other than now, especially, whereas everyone everywhere thinks that Russell Westbrook is amazing because he can average a triple-double.
Okay. Well, got two interesting options right here. Guys, you got 5 minutes on the clock. Why don't you battle it out?
Paul George never left because he didn't think he couldn't win. He left because he's friends with Kawhi Leonard and he wanted to play with Kawhi. It had nothing to do with Westbrook. And Harden didn't leave. Harden was the sixth man and he wanted to start.
If you think Russell Westbrook is great and you're not walking into Sam Presti's office and going, trade me to LA because I don't want to play here anymore. Right after he already re-signed, he just re-signed the year before, and it's like, this Westbrook, no, I'm not winning a championship here. Melo, let me tell you two teams that have not done anything. I mean, I don't think they did. Nope, I don't think they did. The Nuggets haven't done anything ever. The Knicks have been trash for 30 years and have only made the playoffs like one time, and that was when Melo was on the team.
Yeah, and you want to talk about overrated. Melo was supposed to be the second coming for the Nuggets. He only got them to one Western Conference final, and every other one they got bounced out of the first round every other time. He went to New York because New York donned him the savior of New York. What did he do? He was a cancer on that team. He crushed Linsanity right when it started because it was taking the spotlight away from him. That is the thing of overrated, is that they literally
that would be everyone him crushing Linsanity and then still being trash with the Knicks and then burying the Knicks, and everyone's like, it's not Melo's fault. Everyone is like, it's Melo's fault. He goes to OKC.
In terms of overrated,
this is not working. It's Melo's fault. He goes to Houston. It's Melo's fault. Nobody. You started with your opening statement of, oh, well, he's not LeBron James or Dwayne Wade. And it's like,
or Chris Bosh.
Okay, or he's better than Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh sucks. He was a tractor. He was a tractor for the Heat. Who cares?
Chris Bosh was the back of the Miami Heat.
But let's forget about Darko Milicic, but he won a championship, so okay. He was carried by the Pistons to that championship over the Lakers. But Russell Westbrook, everyone goes, oh, but look, he averaged a triple-double. Let's give him an MVP for averaging a triple-double because Steven Adams can box out and he can get easy rebounds. And then also with Russell Westbrook, okay, after he drove away Kevin Durant, and then what has he done since he's the guy? He's the guy.
He'll make playoffs and he can make it past.
He makes the playoffs. He makes the playoffs and gets eliminated in 4 and 5 games.
That's because of the Warriors. I mean, he's still he's a challenge. Carmelo Anthony can't even stay on a team because he's a cancer in the locker room. People sign him and then go, "Oh wait, I would rather not have him on my team."
I agree. That's what makes it. That's what makes it not overrated. You have to be highly rated to be overrated. That's the definition. That's the base. Here's the baseline. The word is overrated.
Your guy literally averages, like you said, a triple-double a game. He's won an MVP. He's got 2 scoring titles. He's led the league in the assists twice. I mean, your guy is not overrated when he's got the awards and stats to back it up. He's played in NBA Finals. He's played
in NBA Finals with Kevin Durant.
I'm sorry, Kevin Durant is not the only player on that team. Russell Westbrook and him were.
He just played the NBA Finals when he had Kevin Durant and James Harden on his team. After the championship Mavs had just got disassembled by the new CBA. But and it was a strike shortened season. But whatever. Yeah, Russell
under re-signed for a 5-year, $200
the reason they made that
deal. If he's overrated, they wouldn't have shelled that kind of money. Why would the Houston Rockets that got Melo or Westbrook? Yes. Why would they shell all those first-round picks to the Thunder to get Melo or to get Westbrook if he was overrated? Your guy has actually made the All-NBA team twice, second team 5 times, third team once. Melo has never made All-NBA first team. The dude would rather score 30 points than allow his team to win the game. Westbrook still wants to win the game for his team. He facilitates the ball. You can call him a ball hawk, and you can call him something for getting rebounds, but he still passes the ball. He's a great team player in terms of that. He wants to win games. Melo just wants to pad his stats.
Let me quote Jim Mora. Is it Jim Mora? No, it's Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. And when Russell Westbrook is your best player, you get swept or you lose in 5 to the Houston Rockets, who just have James Harden doing the same thing but better. So when Russ is your best player, you lose in the first round of the playoffs. Congratulations!
Can't make it past the first round.
Cool. Melo took the Nuggets to the Western Conference Final.
20 seconds.
Once. Westbrook did it.
Westbrook done it 0 times.
0
times.
4 separate times. I'm sorry. Was Westbrook not on that team? Westbrook
he was the best player on that team. Kevin Durant was the best player on the team.
Some people might not think differently.
Cool. If you're just saying, oh, well, he was on a team with Kevin Durant, so that just makes him a better player.
That's time.
Okay, guys. Wow. Could see that happening in any bar across America, that conversation. So that was pretty good. Since Sean started us on that argument, I'm going to give Jim the first closing. You get a minute as soon as you start talking.
Sean's argument is just that Russell Westbrook was on a good team that was stacked with young talent after the championship Mavericks had got disassembled, and they made the finals. Cool. And then they also made the Western Conference Finals because Durant carried them there. Cool. But when Russell Westbrook is your best player, you don't get past the first round of the playoffs. When Melo is your best player, you get at least to a Western Conference Finals, I guess. But again, just to finish this off, the prompt is overrated player, and at this point, when Melo can't even get a vet minimum contract on any team in the league because he's that much hated and everyone thinks he's a team killer, that does not overrate Melo at all. Whereas Westbrook, nobody wanted to play with Westbrook in Oklahoma City, so they punted and traded their entire team for 87 first-round picks.
Time.
Interesting. Okay. And Sean, whenever you're ready, you got a minute.
The term overrated is not who likes you and who doesn't like you. The whole thing is terms of stats and how they play. Melo has only been out of the first round once in his entire career, and that was one time in the Western Conference Finals. Westbrook has made it to multiple Western Conference Finals or just Conference Finals. He's made it to an NBA Finals. He's won MVPs. He's won scoring titles, all that stuff. Melo was deemed the best player out of that draft outside of LeBron when he first got drafted. It wasn't Wade and Bosch. It was Melo. Melo went to New York, was a cancer, ended up getting dropped. People keep trying to sign him because they want him to be this great guy, and he's just a cancer killer, and he's not that great of a player overall. He's overrated. Westbrook still signs big contracts of over $200 million. According to Basketball Reference, he has a 99.7 chance of making it to the Hall of Fame. Melo does not. Simply put, when you put stats against stats, Westbrook is the better player. He's not overrated, and Carmelo Anthony is.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
I don't know where all that static's coming from, but dang.
Well, that was quite a battle, if I do say so myself. So there's a lot to unpack there. Jacob, I'll come to you first. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, that was another good one. And again, I'm going back to the question, who is the most overrated player? And I mean, both these guys have picked good players who just haven't been able to do much. But as far as overrated goes, I'm going to have to give it to Sean. Jim made a comment where he said, if Melo's your best player, you make it to the Western Conference Finals. If Russell Westbrook's your best player, you don't make it past the first round. But the only time they made it to the Western Conference Finals was one time. Every other time they made it to the playoffs, they've been one and done, haven't made it past that first round. So I'm going to have to give it to Sean with Carmelo Anthony.
Okay. Very interesting. Thomas, we'll go to you. What did you think about that?
This was a heated debate between two very, very good arguers. However, I do agree with Jacob. I think Jim sort of shot himself in the foot when he mentioned when he compared playoff performances, because even though Russell Westbrook has not made it to a Western Conference Final without Kevin Durant, Carmelo Anthony has only made it there once when he was in Denver. He couldn't do it with New York and, Oklahoma City and Houston. He was bounced out after a couple of weeks. So I'm going to have to give it to Sean. He really hammered home the playoff performances. I think that was a really great a rebuttal of Jim's points. And he had the stronger argument altogether. I mean, Carmelo, again, was touted as the second best player in 2003 other than LeBron James. The counter argument I was kind of hoping to see was that Carmelo was a part of that banana boat crew with LeBron, D-Wade, and Chris Paul, and how they're all friends and they constantly get compared to one another, and Melo's sometimes put above both Wade and Paul. That was the one counter argument I was hoping to see. Kind of disappointed I didn't get to see it, but overall I think Sean's points were a little stronger. His rebuttals were a little better. So yeah, this second point is going to go to Sean.
There we go. It's 2-0 Sean. He needs one more to win, so Jim's got to pull the rabbit out of the hat right now. Wow, so two great matches to start, two great rounds. We're coming to the third round. Jim has to win this, so no pressure. Question number 3 is coming up, and this comes in the category of college football. So we have had a lot of history and historic college football players. And what really signifies what is the best is the Heisman. So this question is, who is the best Heisman Trophy winner of all time? And since Sean started that last one, we're going to go to Jim for his opening.
I will be picking the 2011 Heisman winner, and that is Robert Griffin III. RG3 won the Heisman for a team that if the Cleveland Browns went 0-16 for 40 years, they would be the Baylor Bears. Throwing some like 1-15s. It's a trash team. So I will be picking one of the more underdog Heisman winners ever, and that is RG3.
Interesting choice, Jim. Okay, and Sean, you got a minute. Up to you.
In terms of one of the most historic seasons in Heisman history, I have to go with someone who literally did it on their first year starting, and that goes to Barry Sanders. Just to give you a little bit of input before we get into the fight, in 1988, he cranked out one of the most ridiculous seasons in college football history. He rushed for over 2,628 yards. He averaged 238.9 yards a game. He had 37 rushing touchdowns, and he also added a punt and a kick return in that season as well, to bring his regular season total to 39 total touchdowns for one player in a season. And that's why I had to go with Barry Sanders for the 1998 Heisman.
Wow. Okay, so
All right,
Barry
then.
Sanders versus RG3. This is not one that I was expecting, but here we are. So, gentlemen, your 5 minutes starts now.
Sean, let me go ahead and make your argument for you already. Oh, records. Cool. But let me go back to Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. And Baylor is the absolute trashiest program that there's almost ever been. And this was the
They're
taking
not trash anymore. They're actually solid.
This was the beginning of them actually going from, they're the most laughingstock program in the country to, okay, they're somewhat solid, but after our Bryles is gone, different story, but now they're kind of bad again. But in this great record-breaking season, records, yes, 1988, who did Oklahoma State beat? Did they beat the powerhouse, fabled Southwest Conference, Texas? No, they beat the A&M. They beat the Aggies. Oh, and did they beat, who else? Did they beat the Big Eight? Okay, they had to beat everybody in the Big Eight. No, they actually lost to Oklahoma and Nebraska, the two only other good teams in the Big Eight at the time. But who did Baylor beat? Oh, Baylor, who is absolutely terrible. Yes, they lost to, I think they lost to Kansas State and, Oklahoma State that season, which, two programs, the middle of the road of the Big 12. But they actually beat Texas. They actually beat Oklahoma. They beat everybody else in the Big 12 when the Big 12 was actually one of the better conferences that season. Barry Sanders dominated a terrible Big Eight in a Southwest conference like Texas A&M, who sucked at the time. So Barry put up.
It's funny you mention that. It's funny you mention that because I let you go a little bit. You say our only two losses were to Nebraska and Oklahoma, two of the top 10 teams in the league. So you're saying that we're in a trash conference, yet two of our teams in the league are a top 10 to top 5 caliber squad. We finished 12th. We lost 2 games. Both those games, Oklahoma, we only lost by 3. With Nebraska, we were down 42-0 in the second quarter, and the coach goes, Barry, take it. And what did the final score end up being? 63-42, because Barry Sanders went for 4 touchdowns.
Because you can let Barry run all day long when you're up by 42.
Jim, I love that you mentioned your losses. You lost to these two, Oklahoma State and was it Kansas State? Was it Kansas? You also managed that you guys got blown out by an unranked Texas A&M squad. Funny you left that one out because you got owned by a Texas A&M squad that was unranked. Baylor's lost to A&M. He got outplayed by Ryan Tannehill. That's a Heisman Trophy winner. He got outplayed by Tannehill. That is not the best Heisman Trophy winner. And even when he did play in a game, he had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Barry Sanders, his least amount of rushing yards in a single game was 154 yards. His lowest output of the entire game. You're talking about records. Yeah, you're right. Records matter. We're talking about the most historic Heisman season ever. Barry Sanders finished 13th in rushing yards for a team. He outrushed every team by himself in NCAA football that year, except for 12 teams. RG3, he had a great season. Regardless, I'm going to give him that. He made Baylor's relevant again. But his Heisman Trophy season wasn't great. He didn't even sweep the Heisman voting. He lost in one region to Andrew Luck. Barry Sanders swept the whole field.
Cool. That really doesn't matter all that much. Oh, he got
That's exactly what I'm saying.
He got more first place votes. But again, Barry Sanders it's a memorable Heisman. I will give you that. But it's like, okay, Barry Sanders, he goes number 1 in the draft. It's Barry Sanders. But again, they lost. And your point of, look what Barry did when they were losing 42, so they can just unstack the box and spread it out and just let Barry run for 400 yards and just tackle him in bounds so the clock keeps running because
it's better than when RG3 just threw it all game.
We're up by 42, and Baylor has no defense ever, so it's literally just RG3 carrying him on his back, and then RG3 goes from nobody even knows his name because he plays for Baylor to winning the Heisman and becoming the number 2 pick in the NFL draft, whereas Barry, it's just the second that Barry goes in, it's Barry Sanders. And then he just takes over, and then he's still the number 1 pick. And
Barry Sanders was a no-name going into that season. Don't act like he had this staple of a career before that. He was going in for a first-year starter. Don't act like Barry Sanders was the greatest ever going into that season because he wasn't. RG3, for a Heisman season, we're talking about the best Heisman season, he lost 2 games by 27 points or more. Barry lost 1 game by more than 3 points. And that was to Nebraska, who was a powerhouse at the time. Every time I throw all these stats, you're like, oh, that doesn't matter. That's exactly what matters. We're talking about the most historic season for a Heisman winner. And just because your stats don't stack up.
I mean, it's not historic. It's best season. And the story of RG3's no-name player to second in the draft is better story than Barry's.
Wow. Okay, I did not expect that.
At the end.
But here we are. Yeah. So since Jim started that one, we're going to have Sean close it out first. You got a minute when you start speaking.
Bottom line, Jim likes to throw records around like they're nothing, but records are what keeps this game relevant. Barry has still records to this day, and that was in 1988, for all-purpose yards per play. He had over 4 games with 300 rushing yards in a game. Over 4. The dude was a monster, and his Oklahoma State team was okay, but it wasn't great. But he managed to finish in the top 15 and top 25. Baylor did too, but at least we lose the top tier caliber teams, and then we murder everybody else. RG3 couldn't beat an unranked team, so even though he had this phenomenal according to you, QB season, he still couldn't beat a unranked Texas A&M team, and he got outplayed by Ryan Tannehill. He didn't sweep his Heisman voting. He, like you said, you just let Barry run all day. RG3 passed all day. So all your arguments that you came at me were invalid. Barry Sanders has a better career season than RG3.
2, 1, time's up.
Okay. And Jim, got a minute left whenever you start speaking.
Again, I just think Sean wants to tout about records that aren't broken when Barry's defense just shut people down, except for 2 games against the only real teams that they actually played. Barry ran all over a bunch of garbage teams. The Big 8 was terrible. He played the weakest Southwest Conference team that there was. Baylor actually won and played. I don't believe they won. I think Oklahoma State won the Big 12 that year. Baylor finished very high ranked, and it's Baylor. Nobody ever has done that with Baylor before then, and then after that they were actually a little good for a little bit, but now they're terrible again. But RG3 had the key wins, and I don't think it matters what the Heisman voting was. He won the Heisman. He went from an unknown to the number 2 overall pick in one season as a Heisman winner. His story's better than Barry's, so RG3.
Okay, that's time. So this is an interesting one for me. I'll go first on this one. Really, what it comes down to, I guess, is the story book, because you have a guy who is Barry Sanders, who is one of the best to ever play college football, and then you have RG3, who had a very good year when nobody expected it from him. So I think that's pretty much the argument. And from that, I'm going to have to go with Sean still on this one. It's the best Heisman Trophy winner. And, I mean, Barry Sanders, the stats that he racked up are unfathomable. So I'm going to go with Sean on this one. Thomas, what do you think?
This probably has to be my favorite topic on today's show. I want to highlight some things real quick. I think there were some missed opportunities on both sides. I think people forget the same season RG3 won the Heisman, he put up 70 points in the Alamo Bowl against the Washington Huskies, who had a phenomenal defense at that time. Putting up 70 points against the Huskies, truly a phenomenal performance. I want to say he put up 7 touchdowns. So a missed opportunity from Jim there. And then on the other side, I think people forget that even though RG3 had a phenomenal season with Baylor, Jared Stidham and Bryce Petty had seasons that were close to RG3's, and they finished better in the rankings. They almost made the college football playoff. I believe it was with Bryce Petty a few years ago. So there's missed opportunities on both sides. But overall, the argument of best Heisman Trophy winner ever, I think Sean really nailed it on the head with Barry Sanders. And I'll say it. It comes down to 3 little words: stats don't lie. You know, Sean's point about Barry having multiple 300-plus rushing yard games really hammered his point home. I just don't think Jim's argument was strong enough. about Baylor losing to an unranked Texas A&M team. The two losses that Oklahoma State had were to two top 10 ranked teams. And, it's a running back. You can only do so much. As a quarterback, you can do a little bit more. So I think Sean's point was much stronger. Props to Jim, though. He put a lot of work into that. So props to him, but I got to give this third point to Sean.
And your winner is Sean Wasserkrug. Wow. That's Jim fought very valiantly in that. All of those were pretty neck and neck, I got to say, in my mind. But Sean's the winner, and we'll go to Sean first on this. How do you feel, Sean?
I mean, I feel good. By knockout. No, it was fun. Jim's a worthy opponent. He knows his sports and stuff like that. So I mean, it was a fun match. I'm glad we finally got to do this because we've been trying to get this going for a while now. I can't wait till round 2 on whoever I play. I don't know who I play, but I'm looking forward to the next round.
And you're advancing, and that's awesome. Hats off to you. Look to see you in the future. And we got Jim, who fought valiantly, but sadly could not pull it out in the end. Jim, how you feeling right now, man?
I'll quote the Beatles. I feel fine. Sean is good. I feel like I had some good arguments. I feel like all of them were really close. None of them were really just like runaway wins. So it's not like I got my ass kicked. So I lost 3-0, but I feel like they were all like 9-8 rounds, not 10-8s. So hey, I'm good. I'm good with that. I did what I could with what I had, and it just wasn't enough today. But maybe sometime down the road. Good luck on the next round of the tournament, whoever you play, because I don't have the bracket in front of me to know. So good luck. Good luck down the road, Sean.
Thank you.
And neither do I. So, Jacob, how was that match to you? Do you think, from a judge's perspective?
That was good. Jim, you said it. You lost 3-0. But the score does not reflect how the match was. It was really close. Most of all those questions, it was going down to the wire of who to pick. And I believe you are facing either Matt Beer or Ryan Payne in your next match, Sean. But yeah, good job on the victory. Jim, good job even though you lost. This was a good match.
And Thomas, how did you feel about this match?
This was a great match all the way, and I'll echo what Jacob said. The score may have ended 3-0, but it does not reflect what we saw here today. Jim made some really good arguments. The first 2 rounds, it was really, really, really close. I was 50-50 on it, but the last round was the only round in which I was really fully convinced that Sean came out on top, just because I think his argument was stronger. But those first 2 rounds, Jim, if Jim makes 1 or 2 more points, we'd be in the speed run right now. So, again, that's how the game goes. But yeah, both competitors had a fantastic match. I know Sean's going to go on play phenomenally in his next match because he showed that he's a really great competitor. And I know Jim will probably be back doing the same thing when he plays next time. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Great thoughts from all. And, man, I do love this argument. This debate was great. It felt like something you would argue with another person at the bar after you had 3 too many drinks. So it was perfect. It was really wonderful. And it's great to see Sean moving on. Jim, in the future, I'd love to see you compete more, get a lot of good points, just maybe 1 or 2 more jabs in there would get you the win. But from everybody here at TMG Entertainment, Movie Battlegrounds, Full Metal Media, all that jazz, Sports Brawl, my name's Asher Gold. Have a good night.